currently have a pet-free home. I forgot how YA this reads. Do we have to do this in public? That's a me problem. It was scary. It was creeping me out. Are you kidding me right now? It's making me feel so uncomfortable. If you use girl math, it's free. Guys, we could be doing a 5th roll in this video. Oh. Hello everybody, happy first day of the Spookoplathon. It is indeed the first day of the readathon and I'm super excited because for the first time ever, I'm going to be rolling as I go, which I feel really motivates me to read more because I always want to know like what's coming up next. But I'm also very unprepared right now because we got back from Italy last night. I've been home maybe 16 hours and for 9.5 of those hours I was asleep. I currently have a pet-free home. The pets are still at the sitters. I need to go get them. We have nothing in the fridge. We have nothing to eat. I have a bottle of milk, some cold brew, and a bag of cheese. So the plan is in about 15 minutes, we're gonna go get Brie. On the way back, we're gonna pick up Ham, and then we're gonna drop them both off, go to the supermarket to restock the house. So I got something to eat. And I do also have a live show tonight because there's no rest for the wicked. It's the Catch Up Book Club live show for Best Served Cold, which I finished at like 11 p.m. last night. And aside from all of that, my only plan is to read. So I did do my first roll in advance because I knew that today was going to be hectic, and indeed it is proving to be so. So I did include my first roll in my October TBR, and I did show you what book I was going to be starting the readathon with. But in case you guys need a refresher, I'm going to include that roll here while I go and get my shit together. As with everybody else, I'm going to be starting on go, and let's go for roll number 1. 8. 5, 6, 7, 8, and that is a book with a green cover. So Brie and Ham are now back home and I am back in my pajamas, so my shit is almost together, aside from the fact that I think we are going to be rescheduling the Catch Up Book Club live show that should be in 5.5 hours because the majority of the hosts are ill. So we'll see what happens. I do think we are going to be rescheduling it though. But my first Spookopoly prompt was green, so for that I'm going to be reading Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown. This is the first book in the Savage Lands series, which is the series that my Patreon book club, the Alpha Ho book club, are going to be reading for the next 6 months, and the first 2 books are going to be rereads for me. So this one is like an almost apocalyptic fantasy romance series where it's set like in the human world. It's set in Budapest, but in this world the veil between the worlds of the human and the fae fell. This caused the 2 people to go to war, and then after the war resolved, the world was split in 2. So you have the human side and the fae side. Our main character Brexley is a human and she is the ward of the king, and in her spare time she steals drugs and other goods from the trains that move them from like the human to the fae side of the world and like vice versa, and sells them on the black market. So one day when she's doing this, she gets herself captured, thrown into this maximum security prison where she meets this like legendary war figure called Warwick Farkas. So from what I remember, like I forgot how YA this reads to start off with, but from what I can remember, it took me a little while to get into the first book in this series, but then you get to a point where it's just like a really addictive read that makes you want to pick up the next book straight away. And the only reason why I stopped reading this series after book 2 is because I ordered them all from Waterstones, like books 3 to 6, because I was tired of finishing one, wanting to immediately pick up the next one and not having the next one. So I ordered all of them and then they took 7 months to arrive. So I put a pause on the series and I'm happy that I get to revisit it now with my patrons. So this one it's definitely a quick read. I remember that. And I think it might be a little bit quicker because I have already read it before. Because I remember that the beginning of the books are a little bit more difficult to get into, but with me already being familiar with stuff, it'll probably pass a little bit quicker, and it's only 366 pages. So this is my first Spookopoly book, but I also really have to start The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan, which is book 5 in the Wheel of Time series. Now I haven't solidified a live show date with Sandra yet because she said we could do, I said I can do the 14th or the 28th and she said either is fine with her, and we didn't pick one. So I either have to read 32 or 64 pages a day of this book to have it done by either the 14th or the 28th. So I guess we'll just see how it goes, but this is the 5th book in the Wheel of Time series. It's a big famous adult high fantasy, like epic fantasy series that has a very classic plot line of this like eternal struggle between the forces of light and dark. With each age, there is a pivotal figure called the Dragon Reborn who helps to tip the scales of the world toward light or dark. Now, in the recent past, in the recent ages, the world has been slipping more and more towards the dark, and in this series we are following this age's Dragon Reborn as he plays his role in the events that unfold throughout this age. I like the plot of this. I love how intricate the plot is starting to seem as I'm getting like 5 books deep in here, but I don't like Robert Jordan's writing style, so the only way I can get through these books is to section them into chunks and take it day by day. Now, I just remembered actually that even big fans of this series that have been watching the spoiler content that I'm making for this series have said that the audiobooks are a very good way to read it because you can kind of zone out of the filler and like the writing issues and still get like the good stuff of the plot, which is kind of like what I'm reading for. So I might give that a go. I'll see if I can find the audio on Scribd, which is unlikely, but I do have Audible credits. So I think for book 5, maybe I'll give that a try and see if it helps at all. But my plan for the day, I'm gonna make a shepherd's pie soon because it's definitely shepherd's pie weather. But aside from that, especially if the live show is being postponed to next week, I think I'm gonna read 50 pages of this, a chapter of this, 50 pages of this, a chapter of this, until I get bored and do something else, or just for the rest of the day, I guess, and we'll see how much progress I make. Good morning. I gave myself an extra recovery day from Italy in case I needed it, with the intention to just kind of vibe and do nothing. But y'all know me. I can't do nothing, so I've decided that I'm going to do public sprints, the first sprints of this Spookoplathon, and I'm starting in 11 minutes at 10 a.m. I'm intending to pretty much go all day, and the plan is to, fingers crossed, hopefully finish Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown, because I'm already at the halfway point in here. It is definitely still an easy read. The first 100 pages or so of this book I don't find all that compelling or engaging, but now I'm getting to the point where like I am kind of absorbed and it's just real easy to compulsively read this one. I am still sticking to my plan though of alternating between this and the Fires of Heaven, and in this one I am 58 pages in, and you guys who told me to listen to the audio of this, thank you. I should have listened sooner. The reason I didn't is because I've tried to listen to, it's Kate Reddin and who is the guy? They're the two people that do, I think, all of the Sanderson audio. So the guy in here I have listened to before because I listened to Mistborn Era 2 in audio as well because it's the only way that I can get through it. Kate Reddin and Michael Kramer. So the reason why I didn't pick up the audio previously is because I had tried to listen to one of the Mistborn ones because everybody raves about their audio narration of everything and I couldn't really get into it, and also I don't really listen to fantasy in audio because I find it hard to follow. But I think because Robert Jordan's writing style is actually so accessible, the problem with it is that he goes on and on. Like these books I feel just need much tighter editing. It's actually really easy to follow along with the audio. So I did pull out my diamond painting, which I haven't done in over a year, and listen to some of the audio because even on 2x speed, which is quite a easy pace to follow along with, the chapters are still like half an hour long each. So I do like half an hour of diamond painting while I listen to a chapter, and then I breeze through 50 pages of Savage Lands. So far this is really working out for me, and I think I'm gonna try, obviously I don't know what my next book after this is gonna be, but I'm gonna try and keep that kind of rhythm up where I read 50 pages of my Bookopoly book and a chapter of the Fires of Heaven until I get to the end of this one. I don't anticipate, especially with me doing sprints, if I can like knuckle down, I'll put like a rainfall ambiance room on in the background, and if I can knuckle down and stick to this system that's really working for me, I do feel like I'm gonna have Savage Lands done by the end of the day. I'm not going to talk too much about this probably in this vlog just because it is a reread for me. So I went into, I guess, more detailed thoughts my first time through. And because this is a reread, instead of, I guess, like having thoughts, I'm more just reacquainting myself with the details in preparation for later books in the series. I am enjoying it so far though. It's still pretty much exactly as I remember it being. It's engaging and it keeps me turning pages, which as somebody who struggles with focus and struggles to stay locked into a book, that is pretty much all I can ask for. That's like a really good endorsement from me if it's kind of compulsively readable. So it's 4:30 and I've just finished sprints, and I'm debating whether I should read for 30 minutes before I start making dinner or whether I should just lie here because I've read 240-ish pages today so far. I'm nearly done with Savage Lands. I have like 57 pages left, and I've also made it to today's page goal of The Fires of Heaven, and I'm currently on page 132. So if I read this for 30 minutes, I wouldn't have too much to read after dinner. But I've read so much today that my brain feels like soup. Like, it feels like it's not working. So I'm debating kind of just lying here and decompressing instead. Do you guys feel like that? Like when you read for so long, does your brain feel buzzy and then I have to do something really passive to reset it, like just aimlessly watch TV? I might watch a YouTube video actually. I was halfway through Rhiannon's Bookoplathon TBR earlier, so I might carry on watching that and see if there's any other TBRs that have gone up recently for me to check out and just read this in between. I do have the Buffy watch along with my patrons tonight. We're finishing season 6, but in between, because I'm not working out today, I'm gonna start working out again from tomorrow, so I have a few hours in between dinner and the Buffy watch along to get this finished. Hey baby. Oh, you, well, do we have to do this now? Do we have to do this in public? Do we? She's been asleep like the majority of the day. She's literally barely moved all day. Ah! So I have around 17 minutes until the Buffy watch along with my patrons. We're going to be watching the last 3 episodes of season 6 today, which is potentially my favorite season finale, so I'm real hyped about that. But I have just finished Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown, which means that I'm going to be rolling for a new prompt very soon, and you know that we have to do that right now because I'm very, very impatient. So in terms of this one, I did actually drop it a star. The first time that I read this, I gave it 4 stars, and then upon reread, I have dropped my rating to 3. I'm not sure that that's actually a reflection of the book, more a reflection on my rating system and how it's changed. I used to give a 4 star to books that I enjoyed, a 5 to my favorites, a 3 to books that I was very ambivalent about, and a 2 to ones I didn't like, and then 1 to books that were like horrible. But now I've changed that, so I give 3 stars to books that I like, 4 to books that I really enjoyed but aren't perfect, 5 to new favorites, 2 is for books that I'm ambivalent about, and 1 is for books that I don't like. So in terms of like me shifting that a little bit, this is now just generally a 3 star. The entire time I was reading this, I was pretty much like no thoughts, head empty. It is a complete brain candy book. While it definitely has its flaws, it's compulsively readable and I had a really good time with it. If you are thinking of picking up this series, a big portion of this book does take place in a prison that is called Terror House, or that's like the nickname of it, and a lot of really brutal stuff happens there. There's like torture, threat of sexual assault, humiliation. So if you feel like any of that may be a concern to you, then I would recommend looking up a full list of trigger warnings, because it doesn't really kind of shy away from those aspects. Like, it is pretty brutal, pretty graphic in some places. But I'm so happy that this is my Patreon book club series. I'm not sure how the spoilery vlogs for this are gonna go. I feel like it's not a series that I get super like mentally invested in. It's more of just something that I read to enjoy. Like, I'm not thinking too hard while I'm reading it, but I can't tell whether the reason that I felt that way specifically when reading this book and making the spoiler vlog for it is that it's a reread, so like I had even less thoughts than I normally would. I am rolling in terms of Patreon. I normally do like a spoiler vlog per book, and then every month like my patrons will get access to that spoiler vlog. But for this, I'm going to be doing the 2 first books together in one vlog. There's 2 reasons for that. The first is that, like I said, I don't have a whole ton of original thoughts because it is a reread for me. And the second is that I've had a couple of theories, and I'm not sure whether they're actual theories or whether the things that I know from reading book 2 that I've forgotten are things that I actually know. So just in case I am spoiling book 2, I'm just going to do the 2 books together in one video. So I am going to set up to do our second roll. As we know, I am also currently reading Fires of Heaven, and I do want to get that onto my Spookoplathon TBR somewhere. So if I roll a suitable prompt, I will be slotting that in there. The only problem is that I think it's only actually going to fit into 2 prompts on the entire board. It is in my chance cards, and I do have, I'm pretty sure I have like book club in my community shelf stack, but unless I manage to land on those spaces and pull those cards, I can only fit it into Michael Myers, which is to read a sequel, and also Big Book, which is a book over 500 pages. But where available, if available, I will slot that in and like just get it on the official TBR and continue to read it like in the same way that I am. But seeing as that is unlikely, we're going to be picking a brand new book, and I'm really excited to see what our prompt is going to be. So let's go on with that. So our first prompt was, of course, green. Rule number 2. Is a 5 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that is spooky. So we landed on spooky, which is absolutely fine by me. And in the Spookopoly guide, I gave a variety of ways that you could fulfill the spoopy, spooky, and stabby prompts if you didn't necessarily want to or weren't necessarily able to just straight up go spooky, I'm gonna read a horror. But I feel like I should read or like fulfill the prompt in the spirit that I put it on the board. So when I put the pinks down, I had spoopy, which was, you know, like the cute stuff that's Halloween themed but not like scary, and then we had spooky, which in my mind was horror, and then stabby was thriller, that perfected what is for me like the 3 types of spooky season reads. So with that in mind, we had to pick a horror. Hey baby, not again, not again. She's getting a bit more life in her. She's nearly recovered from being at the sitter now. I feel like we're gonna have a burst of energy tomorrow, but she still slept for most of the day. But I went with my gut on this one, and I feel kind of bad about it because I picked a book that I've hauled very recently, and I always feel like I should be prioritizing books that are on my TBR for a long time. And like, you could make an argument for either way. Like, if I've had a book for a long time, should I be reading it? Yes. But if I'm acquiring a new book, if I'm buying, if I'm requesting new books, should I also be reading them? Yes. So I went with my gut, and I'm glad that I did, because then I took a moment to think about it, and I had like so many options that I'm really excited to read this month that I could have put in for this prompt. But I decided to go with my original decision, which is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. This was one of the books that I got from Book of the Month at the beginning of September. So this one is a debut horror from, I think, an Australian author, and it is following an influencer that buys a Victorian house for like an absolute steal with the intention of renovating it on her blog. She's like a lifestyle influencer. I think she's also like a therapist and a self-help writer, and she's currently dealing with her failing marriage. So she takes on this project to distract herself from everything going on in her life, but she's actually bought a murder house, and as the renovations progress, things start to go horribly wrong. The back of this sees a gruesome history, a hostile neighborhood, a new owner with a shocking secret. Welcome to Blackwood House. Now, I, as somebody who owns a Victorian house and is constantly renovating it, or should I say constantly waiting for tradespeople to get back to me so that we can renovate the house, that instantly appealed to me. And I'm also really intrigued about it being a murder house. I did look on Goodreads just to double check that this was a horror, and it's like the predominant genre that it's shelved as, but it is also shelved as thriller as well. So I have no idea what to expect. Like, I don't know whether the threat in here is going to be like an actual person, or whether it's going to be like ghosts of the murder victims haunting the house, but I am very excited to find out. I anticipate this being a quick read for me because it's 278 pages, so absolutely tight. That's including acknowledgements. Actually, it's 273 pages, and with the synopsis, I anticipate it's going to be quite pacey. I don't read a lot of horror, so I'm going into this with really low expectations, and I'm willing to like let the story carry me away. And I'm also really excited that we are starting to get spooky books on my TBR. Can I read that, please? Please? So there is something that I've been meaning to tell you guys about for a while, and I keep forgetting to mention it in a video. I've mentioned it on Instagram, but that is about it. But if you guys are in the UK, especially if you're in the north, if you're not far from Newcastle, there is an event that is happening on Saturday the 18th of November in Newcastle. It's at the Common Room. It starts at 11 AM going into the afternoon, and it is called BookTube Meets. It's organised by Hannah from Lida M, and it is intended to kind of be the first of its kind. I think that Hannah intends to host more in the coming years. And there is going to be a panel at the event, which I will be on along with Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin, Leanne from Literary Diversions, and also Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe. The tickets are quite reasonably priced. They're like £15 each, and I will put a link to them in the description. How rude. I'll put a link to them in the description if you guys maybe want to attend. It's just going to be like a very low-key, intimate gathering of bookish people with a panel. I do believe that there will be like a bookshop or like a bookstall at this event as well. So if you guys are interested, I would recommend checking it out, especially if you are in the north. If you are in the area, you'll be able to make a day trip of it. With it only starting at 11, that gives you like ample time to just kind of like get the train into Newcastle and then the train out afterwards, because it ends at like, I think it's before 5 p.m. So I just wanted to mention that because I keep forgetting, and it is coming up now. It's just over a month away. It would be cool if you guys can attend. We can hang out. I'd love to say hi to some of you guys if you're interested. I did want to check in with you guys this morning, but I had a very early appointment at 8:45 and I kind of ran out of the house. I did not leave myself enough time to get ready, but I have at this point almost finished The Stranger Upstairs by, oh my god, who is the author? Lisa M. Matlin. Also, I keep getting questions about these things, which are the dust covers that I use to cover my hardbacks while I'm reading them. I get quite a few questions about where they're from. I get mine from subscription boxes, but I do know that there are bookish suppliers that you can buy them from on Etsy. If you type in like book sleeves, they are like an evolution of the typical book sleeve that you put your book into, but it is a dust jacket instead, and they have a little button so that you can seal it. It doesn't work really well for this book because it is quite a thin one. They're designed for more like a 400-page book, but yeah, I thought I'd let you guys know about that as well, because that's something else that I keep forgetting to mention. But I am enjoying this. I only have like 60 pages left, so I'm definitely going to be finishing this tonight, and I'm still on track with Wheel of Time. Like literally, who am I? I'm on like page 200 of that now, and I need to get to page, I think 240-ish by the end of the day. But this one is, I'm very unfamiliar with horror, but to me this reads kind of like a hybrid between a horror and a thriller. So we're following a woman who is a therapist. She self-published a self-help book, and she also is an influencer. So she has been married to her husband for 3 years. She has things that she's concealing about her past, and her husband is as well, and their marriage is oh, that's my HelloFresh. I'll be back. So her marriage is failing, and in a last ditch attempt to save it, she buys this murder house because it's in a very affluent community, but obviously with it being a murder house, it's a lot cheaper than any other house in the area. So she's trying to better herself. Her and her husband come from a very small town in Australia. They had not the best upbringings, and with her having this life now as an influencer, she wants to kind of improve her standing in society, I guess, and renovate this house, flip it, and make a whole bunch of money when it's up to the same standard as the rest of the houses in the neighborhood. Now, this house has been empty for 40 years, and that is because there was a family that lived there, and the husband killed his wife, tried to kill his daughter, and then killed himself. Now, when the main character moves into this community, she finds out that the neighbors do not want her there, and she's trying to renovate it. She's trying to get people in to do this work, and they're either very cagey or things are going wrong in the renovations. Her marriage is also falling apart, and this house obviously isn't the quick fix on her marriage that she wanted it to be. She's feeling the pressure of her marriage failing because she wrote a self-help book where she has like chapters about marriage in there. She's a therapist. She's counseling other people in their marriages while hers is falling apart, and this house of cards that she's built for herself is essentially beginning to crumble. Nobody knows why this man that lived in this house in the 70s decided one day that he was going to try and kill his family, and the people around, like the people in the neighborhood, all say that the house made this man mad, and the main character thinks that this is absolute bullshit. Like, houses don't make people crazy, but the longer she lives there, the more her life and her mental health spirals, and everything starts to fall apart. So we have a very unreliable narrator in here. It's very obvious that she is hiding a lot of things. We know straight off the bat that she has things about her past that she's concealing, and as the pressure starts to build, as more and more things go wrong, she is consistently crumbling, and her narration gets more and more unreliable as the book goes on. So far, I am enjoying this. I'm enjoying the process of reading this. This is falling into the camp that most thrillers do for me, where it is a very compelling read. I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving it while I'm reading it. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact on my life, but that's fine because that's not why I read thrillers. Thrillers for me are supposed to be consuming and compelling and like a really fun ride, and it is definitely providing that. With horror, I've spoke about with thrillers before how I always expect them to shock me, and then sometimes I'm disappointed when they don't, and that's something that like, that's a me problem. That's me going into books with too high expectations, and this isn't scary. I would say it definitely has had unsettling moments, and something that I am kind of enjoying about it is that it is keeping my brain active. Like, I have been trying to figure out what the plot twist is going to be, as I always do when I'm reading a book like this, and so far like I'm coming up blank. Like, every time I think I know something, it's kind of like refuted. So at this point, with 60 pages left of the book, I'm on page 222, I still don't know whether the thing that's wrong with this house is man-made or whether it's supernatural or what is really going on here. And obviously the narration is getting more and more unreliable, so things are actually getting less clear as we approach the end of this book. We also have like a mix of timelines in here. So a little bit into this, we start to get news articles that are reporting on an event that is happening later in the book than the core narrative that we're following. So we know that it is building up to something, and we're filling in the gaps of how it gets there. So it is a short one as well. It's 288 pages, and I was a little bit worried about that going into it, because we all know that for me, more is more. Like, I like a big book, one that I can really get absorbed in. But I feel like this is actually going to be the perfect length because of how ambiguous it is, with these strange things happening that the main character doesn't know how they're happening. I feel like if we continued on in this vein for much longer than 288 pages, it would start to get a little bit tedious and like long-winded. So I am aiming to finish this tonight, hopefully sooner than that. It's like 3 p.m. now, and I've just got home, and I really want to try and get some filming done. I'm not gonna lie, I'm running out of foundation, and I am trying, hoping and praying to get to Black Friday before I have to order it, because I get my foundation from MAC and I know that they have amazing Black Friday deals. They usually do 20% off. So I already have all my makeup on because I've been out today. So if I can film my wrap up and my September unboxing today, that would be grand, because that would mean that I don't need to wear foundation for the rest of the week. I'm just telling it how it is. I'm also obviously incredibly excited because I'm going to get to roll tonight. So I am procrastinating a little bit on filming my wrap up. It's not going to take me too long, but I didn't really enjoy any of the books that I read in September, or most of them, and my unboxing is probably going to take a while because I've got like quite a lengthy stack. But daylight is dwindling, so I'm going to go get on with that, and we'll see if I can get it done. So I just finished The Stranger Upstairs, and those last 70 pages were immaculate. Like, it wasn't that long ago that I was telling you guys that it's a horror, but I'm not scared. I've been slightly unsettled, but that's it. Through the end of this book, I was on edge. Like, it was scary. It was creeping me out. We had like short chapters with cliffhangers to hike up the pace, and the way that every chapter was ending, I was like, oh my god, what is gonna happen next? And then when you think it's done, when you think it's all over, it just went that extra mile, and I loved it. And this was a solid 3-star read for 200 pages of this book. I was like, I'm enjoying it, it's entertaining, it's keeping me hooked, but it's like, it's not blowing my mind. And then the end comes in, and I really liked it. I really liked it. So I gave it 4 stars. The whole last 70 pages added a whole extra star to this, and oh my god, I'm in the spooky mood now, because obviously it's spooky season. I'm trying to pick as many spooky books for Spookoplathon as possible, but I wasn't feeling it. I think it's because I have been away, so like I prolonged summer for an extra month essentially, and now I've come back and like it seems like it's autumn and it's super abrupt, and I don't feel like I've had time to warm up to the season. This has put me in the mood, and I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. So I usually work out after dinner because I hate getting settled and then having to get up and do something, but I had 40 pages left of this book and I needed to finish it, which means that I need to go work out soon. I have a 30-minute pop ride with Ali Love queued up, but before I get into that, we're gonna do another roll because we all know I have no chill, so I can't leave it until later. It's happening right now. Here we go again. So roll number 2 was spooky, and roll number 3 is a 9. This is a chance card. Okay, I'm not nervous at all. These have been shuffled previously. So what does, oh, it's Savage Lands. Okay, well we already read that, so let's try it again. Are you kidding me right now? Okay, you can tell that I knew what I wanted to read this month. The chance cards have, we've already pulled 2, so I feel like this is a terrible time to explain. I have all of the books on my TBR in here, and then I rounded it up to 10 by adding a bunch of stuff I wanted to read. So the first 2 we picked, I was actually just thinking that I should take these out and replace them with new books. Obviously did not do that. Our third one definitely will not have read this one. Is, oh my god, Last House on Needless Street, amazing. So the first thing that I'm going to be doing tomorrow is printing off a new sheet of Spookoplathon cards and replacing the 3 cards that I've pulled, or like books that I've read, with new books. But the one that we picked was a very, very good one. It is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, which is one of the spooky season mood reads that I put in. The only kind of regret that I have is that this says on the back, this is the story of Ted, who lives with his young daughter Lauren and his cat Olivia in an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. So this was the book that I was going to pick if I landed on Black Cat, which is like one of the most specific prompts on the board. So I needed to know that I had like a spooky book in reserve for that, which was this one. I mean, I might not ever land on it, but if I do, which I feel like I'm likely to now that I'm reading the book that I had reserved for it, I have no idea what I'm going to read for that. But for this, for roll number 3, for chance, we're going to be reading The Last House on Needless Street. Now, I have no idea what this is about. The synopsis gives me absolutely nothing. It's about a family that live in a house. There's betrayal, murder, a stolen child, revenge. That's all I know. I don't even know if this is a horror or a thriller. I think it's categorized as both, but I'm going into this completely blind. A lot of my friends really like Catriona Ward. Beth was unhauling this earlier this year because she got the hardback of it, so didn't need her paperback anymore. So I snapped it up. But I have absolutely no idea what to expect, but I am more than happy to be reading this one, especially off the back of The Stranger Upstairs. This is also about a family and a house. I mean, I don't know how relevant the house is. Like in The Stranger Upstairs, the house is like the thing. I don't know if the thing in here is the house, but because the book is titled The Last House on Needless Street, I'm thinking it might be. I'm excited to find out. Spookopoly, I'm having the best time. Can you believe it's like the 4th of the month and I'm picking up my 3rd book and I'm still on track with Fires of Heaven. Don't ask me why I've been choosing to sit in here and read in the evening recently. You'd think that I'd be sick of being in here because I work in here, so I spend most of my day in this room. But for some reason, it's just been feeling really cozy to me. And cozy is like what I'm striving for this week. I'm in a massive reading mood, as I feel like you can tell it's only Thursday. And I am 116 pages into my 3rd book. But I've been feeling like very unmotivated. I don't know whether it's the weather. I don't know whether it's my mood, but I've been feeling unmotivated to do anything but curl up in a blanket with a cup of tea and read a book. And I feel like it is very, very evident. So I've settled down for the night. I do have to say though, I've got to take this hoodie off because I'm a little bit too hot. And I have 2 chapters left to read of The Fires of Heaven for today. I'm like 280 pages into that and I need to get past page 310. And I'm 116 pages into The Last House on Needless Street. So I think I'm going to read a little bit of this and then switch over and finish up today's section of The Fires of Heaven. But the vibes in this book are immaculate, but also horrific. Like, I started reading this book and from the second I started reading this book I was like, I don't like it. And not as in it's a bad book, I don't want to read it. Everything about this book is making me feel so uncomfortable. And sometimes it's not what the characters are saying, it's kind of what they're not saying. So we have 3 perspectives in here. One is a guy called Ted who lives in a house with his daughter and his cat, and we have the perspective of the cat, which is an odd one. It's a religious cat as well, of all things. And then our 3rd perspective is the sister of a girl that went missing, because This book all centers around a girl that went missing from a lake 11 years ago, and the girl's sister has dedicated her life to try and find out what happened to her, which leads her to Ted. So the way that this is narrated is very interesting. Like, Catriona Ward is very good with her choice of language to describe things, because everything is just really off and everything's just really weird, and I don't like Ted's perspective. He has given me the ick from the very first line, and sometimes it's not the things that he says, it's the things that he doesn't say, or like he'll make a very offhand comment that's very sinister. Like, it seems like just a little remark, but it's actually really sinister. I don't like it. I like it because obviously this is the vibe that we're going for in this season in the month of October, but I don't like it because it's making me feel so uncomfortable, but it's also captivating. Like, I can't stop reading. The writing style was a little bit of an adjustment to get into it, but now I'm into it. Like, I need to know what's going on because I just don't know what's happening. The way that it's written, I just don't have a clue what's going on. This guy lives with his cat and his daughter, and I don't know if either of them even exist. I don't have an idea, and I feel like going into this with this setup of the missing girl, this weird guy that lives with his daughter, and then we have the sister that thinks that Ted had something to do with the disappearance, and I feel like the obvious conclusion here is that Ted took the girl, but I feel like that's obvious, so I feel like that isn't the case. Like, I feel like that can't be it because that's the obvious choice from like the first 30 pages of this book. So I have absolutely no idea where it's going. I said that the synopsis for this was super vague, and I don't feel like anything's becoming any clearer the more of this book that I read. So I am settled down now, and I'm hoping to get through a big chunk of it. Probably won't finish it tomorrow. We'll see. Who knows with the speed that I'm reading at right now. Good morning, guys. I've just scheduled a couple of Patreon posts to go up over the next couple of days, and I'm about to get myself dressed and ready to go into town to run some errands. I'm going to be returning the duplicate I have of Lore Olympus Volume 5 to Waterstones, and also I broke my claw clip. I need one of those. My loofah unraveled, so I need a new one of those. And I also ordered some prints that have just arrived, and one of them I was supposed to get a smaller one, but I decided to get a big one instead, and I need to go to the and pick up a frame for that. But I have a Waterstones parcel here, and because I'm going to Waterstones this afternoon, I do plan on doing a little bit of browsing. Probably won't end up picking anything up, but I need to know what's in here just in case there's the potential of me accidentally ordering a duplicate. It feels small, so I honestly could not tell you what this is. I must have pre-ordered this. So much confusion. This is the paperback of The Lost Metal by Brandon Sanderson, which is the 4th book in Mistborn Era 2. I'm not up to book 4 yet. I haven't read book 3, which is The Bands of Mourning, but I definitely wasn't going to be buying this in hardback because I have all of the Cosmere books in the UK paperbacks. So I'm guessing I saw the paperback listing and I pre-ordered it, probably because of double points. But yeah, I have no recollection of this. When Waterstones announced that they're doing double or triple points, I just pre-order a bunch of stuff because, like, if you use girl math, it's free because you don't pay for it until the release date. So yeah, I guess I pre-ordered this. Literally no recollection, but at least I know I have that now because there was actually big potential of me going into Waterstones today, seeing that this was out and buying it, not realizing that I'd actually pre-ordered it.
Let's start with her.
Okay, so she is, her name is Minnie, and she's a 3-year-old girl. So I finished The Last House on Needless Street, and I loved this. I gave it 5 stars. I kind of don't want to tell you anything really about this because I want you to go through the roller coaster of emotions that I have experienced while reading this book. Like, I was not prepared for being close to tears at points throughout this. Like, this book is tragic. Like, there's so much tragic stuff that happens in here that I wasn't expecting from the synopsis. Like, I was expecting potentially to be shocked. I wasn't even prepared for the extent of how like uncomfortable I felt when I was reading this, but this book just gave me whiplash. Like my perspective from the end of this was so different than it was at the beginning. It's wild. So I would definitely recommend this book, and I would recommend going into this as blind as possible. I would say to look up a list of triggers, especially if anything to do with children or animals or abuse bothers you, because there is a lot of that in here, like central to the like themes and the plot of this book. But if anything like that could potentially trigger you, then I would recommend looking up an extensive list of triggers, because there is a lot going on in here. This book went to places that I was not expecting multiple times. And it's funny because actually I said in this vlog, I was saying that I have unrealistic expectations when I'm going into genres like thrillers, that it's going to shock me. Like the plot twist is going to be the most masterful thing I've ever experienced and my head is going to spin. And that rarely ever happens, because like some books that's just not their goal. This did that. This met and exceeded the expectations that I go into thrillers with, and I was not disappointed. I would say that this is a psychological horror, just with like the level of discomfort that I felt while I was reading this, and also the way that Katrina Ward is like painting a narrative that makes you feel a type of way that you're not necessarily gonna feel by the end of this. This was so good, and I had such a good but also terrible time with this, because like I said, I was uncomfortable the entire time I was reading it, but I could not put it down. I am sold on Katrina Ward now. I think the next book that I would like to pick up by Katrina Ward is Sundial. I think the vibes are very different, but I asked Beth for some recommendations and she said that aside from this one, that one's her favorite. So that is definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to in the future. I love reading genres that I don't typically read, but then it gets dangerous, because now that I've read 2 horror books and enjoyed them, I'm wanting to expand my horror collection, but like I don't have the space to have an extensive horror collection along with like fantasy, sci-fi and romance, you know what I'm saying? That one is book 3 down for Spookoplathon. I have fallen slightly behind on Fires of Heaven, which is over there, so I want to spend some time today catching up with that. I do have my Patreon monthly 24-hour readathon kicking off tonight at 7, but I spent last night cleaning this room, cleaning the living room, and I've already got a workout in for the day. I had to make some edits to my Rome vlog, which has just finished exporting, so I'm going to set this to upload, and I want to have that proofed and scheduled for today. But aside from that, my only plan really is to read. Saying that, knowing that I have 5 hours of sprints tonight and then another 7 hours of sprints tomorrow, I feel like I maybe want to catch up on Love is Blind, because I haven't watched last week's episodes and a new batch of episodes was released today, and I do need to finish up my October Inner Circle Patreon bookmark. So maybe once we've rolled, I'll go ahead, get myself settled on the couch in there and do a little bit of catching up on Love is Blind while I work on that bookmark, and then get back to reading. I'm not worried about being behind on Fires of Heaven right now, knowing that I have 12 hours of sprints ahead of me, because I can dip in between whatever my next Spookopoly book is and Fires of Heaven in audio while I diamond paint. But speaking of that next roll, let's go do that. So I'm pretty sure that this one was the chance space that we landed on. Roll number 4 is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this is Candy Corn. So Candy Corn is a sweet book, something that's like either low stakes or like a cozy book or middle grade, something that generally is just sweet. A romance would work, and a romance is what I'm gonna go for. I just wanted to say I am aware that I have a TBR, but I have checked and these TBR books have not, apart from Savage Lands, which we started with, none of the books, none of the prompts that we've landed on have been suitable for books on my TBR. So I'm gonna be going upstairs. I know exactly what I'm going for, and it's a book that I'm excited to read. I love that Spookopoly is facilitating all of this mood reading, but I am, like I said, still aware that I have a TBR I need to get through this month. But I am going to be picking up The Kiss Curse by Errands. So this one is the sequel to The XX, which was a 5-star read for me. Was it last year, last October? Or was it before? The XX was a book of the month book. Never mind, I just thought of another option, but we're going with The Kiss Curse because it's a sequel. So I kind of want to prioritize it. But The XX was it's kind of almost a contemporary romance. It is fantastical, but at the core, these books are contemporary romances on a little bit of a spooky backdrop. So imagine like a contemporary romance set in Halloween Town, and that is like what the books in this series are. So book one was following a woman who had cursed her ex-boyfriend with a Bath and Body Works candle. Now she is actually a witch, and she didn't take this curse seriously because she was heartbroken, she was drunk, and she knows that it wasn't a real spell. However, when her ex reappears back in the town to recharge the ley lines that lie under the town, everything starts to go a little bit wrong, and her main character thinks that her spell may have worked better than she intended, and she has to fix it before it has like drastic consequences. So this one is the sequel, and I think it's following, is it her cousin? It's following Gwyn, and she owns a magic shop in this town. That is all I can tell you about it. It's a very cozy, like spooky season romance. I loved the XX. It wasn't the most mind-blowing book that I ever read, but I gave it 5 stars because it did exactly what it said it was going to do on the tin. It was a very cozy, fun contemporary romance with this like Halloween Town style backdrop, and I really loved it for that. So hopefully the Kiss Curse has the same vibes. How long is this one? Because I feel, especially with a 24-hour readathon starting at 7, this is 300 pages. Guys, we could be doing a 5th roll in this video. I don't want to jinx it, but I am unstoppable right now. Good afternoon. I'm about to go plug into my Fires of Heaven audiobook and diamond paint until I make dinner, but the Amazon guy just stopped by with a little something from me, for me, not from me. I don't think this is from me anyway. It does feel like a book though. So let's see. I feel like I might know what this is. Yes, this is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. When I was in Italy last week, Amberly said that she was going to be sending this to me. This is, I think it's her favorite book. It says, oh look, it's the book I made you add to your wish list. What a surprise from Amberly. Thank you very much, Amberly. This is, I'm not sure if it's Amberly's favorite book or Amberly's favorite romance, but it is, because Amberly is also one of my top tier patrons, it is the book that she has put into the Inner Circle Patreon drawer, you know, the one that I pull from monthly. So she wanted me to have it regardless because she likes it so much, but also because I am inevitably going to have to read it when it comes out of the jar. And I have heard some really good things about Krista and Becca Ritchie. I think they're authors that have, do they have multiple, is this all they write? I feel like I've heard a lot about them, considering it seems that they only write the Addicted series, and then there's a spin-off apparently called the Calloway Sisters. It says on the front, 2 best friends, liars, lovers, addicts, one epic love story. Oh, she's addicted to sex, he's addicted to booze. The only way out is rock bottom. I mean, say less. Damn. This is like friends to lovers, but also fake dating, because they both have addictions and they've pretended to be in a relationship for the last 3 years whilst hiding their addictions from their families, but they're also best friends. They start to wonder whether their relationship should actually become legit. This sounds wild and I'm real eager to get into it. So thank you very much to Amberly for sending me this one. And hopefully, I mean, it is now obviously available to be read at any time, but if I don't pick it up sometime soon, I hope that it comes out of the jar sometime soon. Although saying that, most recent purchase is coming up on the Spookoplathon board. I am about to turn the corner onto that side, so maybe I'll be picking this one up sooner rather than later.
I'm terrified to meet your mother. I'm sure she's a starter.
Good evening, my guys. It is midnight, so I'm quite eager to get myself in bed, but I wanted to bring you guys a progress report after the first sprint of the 24-hour readathon, because I have read so much of this book already, and I've also managed to get myself up to date where I should be at this point, like tonight, in the Fires of Heaven as well. But in the Kiss Curse, I am 172 pages into it, so I'm past the halfway point. 100% going to be finishing this very early in sprints tomorrow and rolling for yet another book. But while I knew that this one followed the cousin of the female main character in book 1, what I didn't realize is that the love interest was going to be the brother of the love interest in book 1 as well. So this one is following Gwen and Wells. Wells is the eldest brother of the family, and he's always been the closest to the boy's father, so he has done his duty for the family, and everything in Wales kind of like isn't going well anymore. They've been trying to keep the magic alive. They're not doing a very good job of it, so Wells moves to this town. I think it's called Graves Glen, and as I mentioned earlier, Gwen owns a magic store, and Wells opens like a real bougie version right across the street. Now, Gwen actually already doesn't like Wells because when they were in university together, he did a very minor a thing that really kind of irritated her, and he has no recollection of this, but she has held it against him forever. So when he turns up and opens this door, that is it. That is war between them, and they both kind of declare war on each other, and they will not stop until one of them wins. Now obviously there's sexual tension in here as the story progresses, and even though they're fighting, maybe they're actually growing closer. In terms of my enjoyment, like, I am having a good time reading this. I still really love the setting of this and how it has those Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus vibes, and I just think it's like the perfect kind of read, like the perfect kind of setting for this time of year. Now that being said, I'm not enjoying it as much as the XX, and I don't necessarily think that that is a reflection of the book, but when I read the XX, I had like pretty much zero expectations for it going into it, and I felt like it did exactly everything that it said on the tin, like exactly everything that I expected it to. But having read the XX and gave it 5 stars, even though I'm not intending to do this, I have gone into the Kiss Curse with some level of expectation that I did not have when I started the XX, and so it's not hitting the same way as the XX did. And at that point I hadn't experienced anything kind of like this series before, but now that I have more of like a comparison in my mind, and it's not hitting. Maybe XX was just a case of like right book, right time, and now isn't as ideal a time to read this as it was when I read the XX. But like I said, I'm still really enjoying it, just potentially not well. I definitely at this point don't think I'm going to be giving this 5 stars, but I am still having a really good time with it. So I'm gonna go. This is very, very late for me, and I still want to get up super early tomorrow. I have to prep dinner for tomorrow before sprints start at 12, because I have the reading sprints for the 24-hour readathon finish at 7, and then I have the catch-up book club live show for Best Served Cold starting at 8. So I have to eat in that hour, which means I'm gonna prep food before sprints start and then like slow cook it through late afternoon so that it's ready in time. I would also like to potentially get a workout in depending on how I feel in the morning, and also take Brie out for a walk. So I got quite a few things I want to squeeze in before midday, which means that I'm not going to be wanting to get up too late tomorrow.
Now you stare through the bars trying to get a closer look. And also just like immediately hear that. And I'm sure this vampire has a sweet ass 9 to 5. So props. You should wait until the weekend with his garden. There's a couple there's one in particular that actually works really well. Oh no, you listen to that song. So Fair and Circles at St. Michael's Churchyard picked up a new chapter in a king vampire enthusiast rivalry.
So it took me a little bit longer in the day than I expected it to, but I have just finished The Kiss Curse by Errands, and to be honest, I don't feel like I have too much more to say about it than what I said last night. I gave it 3 stars. I had a good time while I was reading it. I think that this and the XX are perfect books to read if you want like a Halloween rom-com. I've also read this in less than 24 hours while also catching up on the Fires of Heaven, so that I've already read like today's section of this. So I think if you want a book that you can devour in like a small space of time in this season, especially like potentially on Halloween, then I feel like this series is going to be perfect for you, and it definitely delivers those Halloween vibes with a cute romance there as well. The plot isn't the most in these books, and I definitely felt it with this one. I feel like the XX truly did just come to me, like I read it at a perfect time where that is exactly what I wanted. And while I wouldn't say I'm absolutely not in the mood for a spooky Halloween Town kind of romance right now, it isn't the same perfect time that it was when I read the XX. It feels like I'm being defensive, and I feel like I'm being defensive because I gave the XX 5 stars, and I don't necessarily feel like this is worse, but this definitely wasn't a 5-star reading experience for me, you know, but I did enjoy it, so take from that what you will. We still have 2.5 hours left of the readathon. I've already read like 200 pages today. Who am I this week, honestly? My worst day of the week was Tuesday, and I read like 179 pages. That was my worst day. I have no idea what's come over me, and I'm actually not sure how much longer I can maintain this pace. I'm still feeling it right now, but I just feel like it's a house of cards, and that at some point like everything's gonna crumble, and I feel like it's very much going to be dependent on what we're reading. So I guess it's time to find out what role number 5 is. So role number 4 was candy corn. I'm starting to get nervous now. Role number 5 is 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is Michael Myers. Amazing. We landed on Michael Myers, which is one of the only 2 prompts on the board that I can fit the Fires of Heaven into. So this is now finally on my Spookopoly board. This will be the book that I'm choosing. I mean, I would have been happy to land on Michael Myers at any point because it's a sequel, which is always something that I can get behind, being somebody who reads so many books in series. But I just feel so much better now that this is actually on the Spookopoly TBR. I mean, we could argue, does it even matter since I'm reading it anyway? But I just really want every book I read to be because of Spookopoly. So it makes me feel a little bit better to have this on the TBR. Roll number 6. I'm so glad that we managed to get Fires of Heaven in here. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, a TBR vet. And then for roll number 6, we landed on TBR vet. So this is my call to reality. I did say that I feel like my reading's going to be slowing down at some point, and I do feel like we have potentially just hit some point because I'm now going back to like my core TBR, the TBR that I posted, and I'm picking a book from there, and it's got to be The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chimer, because not only have I generally just had this book on my shelves for years, I've also wanted to read this series for years. The series is one of the first things I ever added to my Goodreads TBR, and I got Goodreads in like 2014, and this was released in 2010, so that tracks. And also just generally, this has been on my priority TBR since May. This is Brandy's Patreon pick. I pulled it out of the jar in May, and I kept saying I was gonna get to it, but with the months that I was traveling, not reading as much, and then like book club priorities like muscling their way to the top of the TBR, it's just kind of took me a while to get to it. So this is the one that I'm going to be reading for TBR Veteran. You know, it's a 500-page book, switching between 2 fantasies. Hopefully I can keep them straight in my mind. I mean, it helps that this is an audiobook, so I should definitely be able to differentiate between the 2. But I can't really give you a synopsis on this. I know that it is a YA fantasy series. It's quite well loved. There is also a spin-off series. This one's the 7 Realms series. I think the spin-off's the Shattered Realms, and it's a multi-perspective fantasy that centers around an amulet. I think we've got a character who's a princess. We also have wizards, and I'm pretty sure that there is also a thief in here as well. So I'm going into this one pretty blind. This is definitely going to be the last roll for this week, and wish me luck. Hopefully I can keep the reading mojo going because this is YA. I'm thinking it'll be quite a compelling read. The only thing I'm worried about with this book actually is that it is YA, because I don't read the most YA anymore, and I've wanted to read this for so long and kind of thought that I'm going to love it for so long that I just hope that I haven't left it too late to where I'm not going to enjoy it as much because it's YA. You know what I mean? But only time will tell. So I just got out of the live show for Best of Cold for Catch Up Book Club, and I'm pretty much here to wrap up this vlog. But I would kind of like to talk about this week's progress just before I do, as a little summary. I'm scared of importing the footage for this vlog because I know it's going to be long, but we made it up to roll 6 for Bookopoly, which is wild. We have 4 completed books and 2 books in progress. I cannot believe how successful this week has been. So to do a run through of the prompts, we had Savage Lands for Green Book. I gave this one 3 stars. It was a reread for me. We had The Stranger Upstairs for Spooky. This one was a horror, and I gave it 4 stars. I then read The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, which is my favorite book of the month so far. This one I gave 5 stars to, and it was a chance card. And then the last one we completed was for the candy corn prompt, and I read The Kiss Curse by Errands that I gave 3 stars to. We then did rolls 5 and 6, which you've pretty much just seen, and for roll 5 we landed on Michael Myers, and I added the Fires of Heaven, which I know I haven't told you guys much about this, but I mean, it's such a work in progress and it takes me many weeks to read them, so I feel like I just don't want to keep repeating myself, especially as I am chipping away at these day by day. But I'm 487 pages into this, and I have to say the audiobooks are making these so much more enjoyable for me. I think it's mainly because I don't typically listen to audio, so it means that I can go and do other stuff, and I'm enjoying reading and following along with this story, but also doing other stuff like diamond painting. I sorted out the October bookmark for Patreon while I was listening. I've done some cooking, some cleaning, so it's making the experience much more enjoyable than it has been reading Wheel of Time in the past. I feel like like if I was reading this physically, we would not be as successful this week as we have been. And then the final roll, our final prompt for this week was, this is the size of a Bookopoly TBR, and this is what I've read this week. But our final prompt was TBR Vet, and I chose The Demon King by Cinda Williams-Chimer, which I can tell you absolutely zero about because I'm 24 pages into it, as I pretty much did not read at all during the last few hours of the 24-hour readathon. But I've read like, should we get a page count? Oh. So without what I've read of Wheel of Time today, in the first 8 days of the readathon, I've read 1,772 pages. I literally do not know who I am. I don't recognize myself right now. But next week's vlog is going to be another vlog just like this. I genuinely don't think I'm gonna beat this next week because it's gonna take me longer to read this than it did to read any of the books that I read earlier this week. So I think it's going to be a little bit slower, but I am still hoping to get a couple of rolls in. So do stay tuned if you are interested. If you are participating in the Spookoplathon, I hope you are also having a very successful reading month and also a great time. And aside from that, guys, I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you're a go and nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.